Welcome into the Commanders Report live show. I am your host, Jack Sperry, coming to you here from beautiful Chat Sports Studios in Dallas, Texas, here on a beautiful Thursday afternoon. And tonight, we got a bunch of great Commanders content coming your way here for about the next 90 minutes or so. First up today, we're going to go over the latest news and rumors surrounding the Washington Commanders. There's a brand new free agency target that we have not talked about on the show here since the early days of free agency. I'll let you guys know who that is here in just a second. Then I'll get into my 53-man roster projection for the 2024 season for this football team. I've got every single player that at the end of OTAs here, I project to make the final Commanders roster. And then we'll get into your questions here where I'll be answering the questions that you put down there in the live chat. Use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get your question on today's Q&A segment. Of course, that's going to be at the end of today's show. I see some people like Jonathan Taylor have already put in their questions. Remember, guys, if you want a question on the show, you got to put your question in there, and then you have to put hashtag Commanders so that producer Coop can see your question and put it on the mailbag. And with that, let's bring in our producer today,
Hello.
Mr. Coop. He's a Cowboys fan. He's a fraudulent Cowboys fan, but you know what? We appreciate him, coming on the Commanders Report today. Coop, how you doing? How's your week been?
I am good. We are in Cowboys country here at the Chat Sports Studios in Dallas, Texas. I see some people watching from California. Greg watching from Bakersfield. Ruiz watching from Sacramento. So we're all across the country here on a Thursday afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Make sure you guys let us know where you're watching the show from, by the way. We'll give you a quick shout-out. I see Doug Furr in the chat. I see Jake Cheney. I see Greg. I see Keek. I see Jonathan Taylor. I see Nicole. Make sure you guys get
Where's
those.
Cassie?
Cassie is right there. Just put it in there.
Wow, how about that?
So my girlfriend Cassie's in the chat. Everybody give Cassie some love down there, if you will. We got Dominic here. We got Eugene here. What's up, Eugene? Good to see your
Eugene, my
face.
man Eugene.
We got a bunch of great Commanders fans in the chat right now. So, Coop, before we get into our first segment today, let's talk about this. What move would you make if you were the Washington Commanders before the start of camp? What is the one thing that you would do?
I think it's pretty obvious if he wants to be here, it's sign Stephon Gilmore. I mean,
It seems like
I think that's what it is.
It seems like every single week we're talking about
Yeah.
Gilmore and how much she would affect this cornerback room and how you would make this defense better.
And now I think the longer he goes unsigned, I think the Commanders' chances go up.
Yeah.
The longer he's still a free agent, so who knows? But
I
I like the chances.
By the way, I'd also put David Bakhtiari in that list as well.
Agreed.
Because we'll talk about Bakhtiari today and why maybe he's less likely to be a Commander. But, the longer that things go on here and the longer it takes for Bakhtiari to try to sign with a team like the Chiefs, for example, that could still use a tackle. If the Commanders are the only team offering him a contract, I think this is where Bakhtiari ends up going. Potentially the same thing for Stephon Gilmore. But it's going to be interesting to see what goes on. If I could, throw out a different move that we haven't talked about on the show before, something that I would consider if I were the GM, Adam Peters, is I'd consider trading for Dan Moore Jr., the Steelers left tackle. He's started every single game of his career at left tackle over his 3-year career. He hasn't been the most productive guy in the world, but the world famous offensive line coach, Duke Manyweather, is his offensive line coach in the offseason. And he said that he's had his best offseason to this point. He absolutely thinks he can be a starting capable left tackle. So if the Steelers, they just drafted Troy Fautanu out of Washington. They drafted Broderick Jones last year. If Fautanu has a good camp, I could see, the Steelers doing what they did with Kevin Dotson last year and trading him away to the Rams. Maybe they trade Dan Moore Jr. to the Commanders.
Yeah, I don't hate that. We all know the Commanders need O-line help. I mean, they're really deficient there. Dan Moore Jr. might be surplus requirements in Pittsburgh. He'd be a good swing tackle for them, but if they get a high-ish value pick for him, I don't see why not. How about this? What do you think about adding a receiver?
I don't hate it. I would if you're going to add a receiver at this point, though, I think it's got to be either somebody that's clearly not a number one guy, so maybe like a Michael Thomas, give you some nice size, or you can get a guy like Brandon Ayuk, who has excellent chemistry with Jaden Daniels. If you want to make Jaden Daniels' life as easy as possible his rookie season, go get Brandon Ayuk. It's going to be a little bit pricey. You're going to have to pay him $30 million a year. I know there's a lot of people that don't think any receiver is worth that kind of money. And then also, you're going to have to probably give up at least 2 first-round picks or something around that value for him. So it's not like it's going to be easy.
But he is boys with Jaden Daniels.
But he's boys with Jaden Daniels. And you would have one of the best wide receiver duos in the game in Ayuk and McLaurin.
Yeah.
But they would both be under large contracts. I want to give some shout-outs here. We got Jasmine Gray. We got Smitty's Corner. We got Jeremy Dobbins. We got Greg. We got Cassie's sister, Emma Voth, in here.
Shout out Emma Voth.
Shout out Emma Voth. She's my best friend in the entire world, and I want everybody to know that.
Aw, that's so cute.
She's the best.
Is Emma Voth live in?
She is in Goodhue, Minnesota.
Goodhue, all right.
So best friend. Shout out to best friend out there.
Jesus Ramirez watching from El Paso.
What's that?
El Paso, Texas.
El Paso, Texas. So you can come, a couple-hour drive here to Dallas. Yeah.
Try 9.
It's like, yeah, I mean, hey, you could come next week on the show. If
now,
you
how about
that?
Quick fact before we move on with the rest of today's show. El Paso to L.A. is basically the same distance as El Paso to Dallas. How crazy is that?
Yeah, El Paso is South Texas, right?
Oh, west, southwest.
South and west.
You know, it's not in the same time zone. It's in the mountain time zone.
Yeah,
it's wild.
That's crazy, man. Okay, man. So today we got a little bit of a promotion going on for Super Chats and Venmos. So any Super Chat or Venmo, you're going to get a shout out on the show. We're going to show you some love. We'll get your question on the mailbag if you have a question. And then $5 Super Chats today. We'll do these Bean-Boozled jelly beans. These are this disgusting tasting jelly beans from Jelly Belly with flavors like stinky socks, barf, dirty dishwater, stink bug, rotten egg, booger, and dead fish. I mean, it's just absolutely terrible, but hey, man, $5 is $5. You know what I'm saying, Coop?
No doubt about it.
$10, Coop and I will both eat 2 beans at the same time. Not looking forward to those $10 Super Chats and Venmos today. And then $20, we get your name on the cowboy hat here. We got the F the Dallas Cowboys hat. We got the names kind of piling up here, Coop. We got names like IQ Barbecue, Cameron, Azirad. We got Tom Downey's name right on the crown here. The Cowboys report.
Where it deserves to be.
Where it deserves to be, absolutely. So we still got some room left on the hat, though. So if you want to send in a $20 Super Chat or Venmo, we can get that done for you guys today. And Coop and I, we're going to have a little bit of fun here. So if we can get 5 different people, well, actually, we'll go to that here in just a second. We actually prefer Venmo to Super Chat, guys. And the reason for that is Super Chat, if you send in a Super Chat, YouTube takes 30% of every single dollar that you spend. And, with Venmo, we get to keep more of the proceeds. And we get to spend more of that money giving you guys the best damn Commanders coverage for free here on YouTube. So if you want to send a donation, you can Super Chat, you can Venmo, you can do either one. If you want to find me on Venmo, I am at Jack-Sperry. You can scan the QR code, or you can send in the Venmo to at Jack-Sperry. And then we got a couple promotions today here, Coop. So if we get to our first milestone is if we can get 5 individuals, okay, 5 different people to Super Chat. Doesn't matter the amount, okay? You can Venmo me $1, okay? It doesn't matter. If we can get to 5 people to send in a donation today, I will slap Coop in the face with a tortilla, who is a big Cowboys fan. So if you want to slap a Cowboys fan in the face as hard as I can, if we can get 5 people to send in a donation today, we'll make that happen for you guys.
I have tried to ban these tortilla slaps multiple times on this channel, and they keep coming back.
I mean, they're fun, okay? And I love slapping Cowboys fans that come on this show as producers. So if you want to slap the Cowboys fan, I mean, we need 5 people to send me a Venmo or Super Chat. It doesn't matter the amount. You can send in $1. You can send in $2. You can send in 5, 10, 20. Doesn't matter what you guys send in. If we can get 5 people to send in donations today, I will slap Coop in the face. And then for every 5, it'll be another slap. So let's make it happen here. We might alternate. We'll see here. We'll see what happens here. We'll see how crazy people get here. But our first milestone today is to get 5 donations. So again, I am at Jack-Sperry on Venmo. And you can just send in a Super Chat in the live chat if you'd rather do that.
Just before we start, some quick NBA news. Alex Caruso traded to the Thunder for Josh Giddey.
Josh Giddey, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. That's
big first NBA domino falling.
That is I'm sure Seatman is pretty happy about that.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, man. So before we get into our first segment here, we're about to get into it. We got 64 people watching. make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. It really does help out the channel. The real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon puts our video and our stream in front of as many Commanders fans as possible. So if you're enjoying yourself, you like what we do here at the Commanders Report, make sure you click that thumbs up icon. We're going to give some shout outs here to everybody that types me in the chat. I see Eugene. I see Doug, I see Jasmine, I see Smitty's Corner, I see Jeremy, I see Greg, I see Jay Stees, I see Jasmine again, I see Dominic, I see Cassie, I see Jake, I see Keek, I see
Emma.
Greg, I see Emma, I see Kevin, I see Steven, I see all these guys in the chat, man. We got a bunch of great Commanders fans. We got Andy O'Brien coming to us here. We got a bunch of people that have clicked that thumbs up icon. We're trying to get to 30 likes. All right, right now we're at 22 likes. We need to get to 30 likes before we get into our first segment today.
That's correct.
So if you haven't clicked that thumbs up icon, you're holding up the show. Click that thumbs up icon right now, like the stream. Let's get to 30 likes before we get into our first segment here, which is going to be the latest news and rumors surrounding this football team. Then I'll get into my 53-man roster projection for the Commanders after OTAs. Then we'll get into your questions. Make sure you guys use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get on this week's Commanders Report Live Q&A. We're at 29 likes, Coop. We still need one more like, all right? So if you're watching this, you haven't clicked that thumbs up icon, you're holding up the show. Click that thumbs up icon so that we can get into our first segment today.
There we
Come
go.
on, folks. There we go. We got to 30. Let's get into our first segment today, the latest news and rumors surrounding the Burgundy and Gold. Welcome into the Commanders Report. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today we got a nice slate of Commanders news and rumors to cover today. First up, we're going to be covering a new Commanders free agency target that is just surfaced here that I think is a very interesting idea for this team to add before Commanders training camp. Then I'm going to tell you why that free agency target is not going to be David Bakhtiari, or at least I don't think it will be. Then we'll get into what ESPN says the Commanders should extend, which player they should extend before the start of the 2024 season. And then we'll finish things off with a Commanders defender drawing praise after OTAs. A starting defender here that I'm really excited to watch in 2024, so make sure you stick around to see who that defender is. Now, before we get into today's news and rumors content, we're once again waging war with the Commanders Report here. 622 likes on yesterday's video. That's the number that we need to beat. And producer Coop says that there is no way that
no chance you fraudulent guys ever beat the Cowboys. Cowboys have 5 Super Bowls. You bums have 3. And the Cowboys haven't won since 1996. That's all I got to say.
Well, I mean, Coop, neither team has won a Super Bowl, this millennia. So, I mean, maybe both our teams stink. And I think you might even acknowledge that the Cowboys have been underperforming.
The Cowboys stink.
Okay, man. Make sure you click that thumbs up icon. Like today's show. It really does help us out and help us beat the Cowboys Report in this friendly wager. Okay, now let's get into this free agency target that I was alluding to, and it's Connor Williams, who really suffered a major knee injury towards the end of last season with the Miami Dolphins. But before he got injured, he was freaking fantastic. He was arguably the best center in football before he got injured. He says that he should be ready to go by training camp here, and he's going to choose his new team soon. This is what Adam Schefter had to say about the former Dolphins center. Former Cowboys and Dolphins free agent center Connor Williams, who is coming off season-ending knee surgery, expects to be ready for the start of the season and is in discussions with multiple teams about where to play in 2024. He plans to pick his new team before training camp begins. So the question is, should the Commanders consider giving Connor Williams a call to fill out the rest of their interior O-line? Well, Williams is still relatively young. He's under 30 years old by a couple of years here, 27 years old here. He's very big, 312 pounds at 6'5". And then last year, man, and throughout his career, he has played center, guard, and tackle. So he's very versatile. I would say he's better as an interior player. I think last year and the last several years where he's played guard shows that. But then also his Pro Football Focus grade last year playing center on a very explosive offense there with the Dolphins. He was first among NFL centers with a Pro Football Focus grade of 86.5. There was nobody in football with a better grade than that at the center position. However, like Schefter was saying, he is coming off a major knee injury that he suffered towards the end of last season with the Dolphins. So there is a little bit of risk here. Is he going to be back to 100%? Is he going to get back to where he was, or is he even going to be 80 to 85% of what he used to be? And is that going to be enough to give him, a relatively big contract here to be your starting center or guard? But let me know down there in the comments section, would you sign Connor Williams if you were the Washington Commanders? Type S if you would sign him, or type P if you would pass on him. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. For me personally, guys, if Williams is down to come play for the Washington Commanders, I would bring him in. Connor Williams is somebody that, is very established in this league. Like we said, guys, he was the number one graded center last year. He doesn't have to play center for the Commanders. I would put him probably at left guard, where Nick Allegretti is currently slated to be the starting left guard for the Washington Commanders this year, and I don't fully trust him. He's never been a full-time starter in the NFL. He had to fill in for the Super Bowl winning Chiefs last year at left guard, and he played pretty darn good. But, do I really trust him, in a full season capacity here to be the starting left guard for the Commanders? I'm not too sure. Also, Connor Williams played for the Dallas Cowboys from 2018 to 2021. And guess who was the defensive coordinator there in Dallas for many of his years there? It was Mr. Dan Quinn, the new head coach here in Washington. So I do think that Dan Quinn's connection could help here in landing the former Dolphin center. Now, when it comes to David Bakhtiari, why I don't think he's going to be that free agency target that the Commanders end up going out and getting is because in a recent interview with Adam Schefter, he laid out his priorities for what he's looking for in his new team, and it doesn't really exactly match what the Commanders have to offer. This is what he had to say. I am and love being a left tackle, but I do also want to win a Super Bowl. That's something that is really, really big too. That's one of the biggest things that kind of evaded me and has been extremely elusive to this point in my career. So unfortunately, Washington is rebuilding right now. They're not going to be winning a Super Bowl for sure this year, most likely, because it's a first-year head coach. First-year head coaches almost never win Super Bowls. And then you have a first-year quarterback. First-year quarterbacks have never won a Super Bowl. No rookie quarterback in the history of the NFL has ever won a Super Bowl as a starter. So, if he wants to go to a team to win a Super Bowl, it doesn't seem like the Washington Commanders, a rebuilding franchise with a whole new infrastructure, really fits his priorities here. And I think the only way that Bakhtiari ends up signing here in Washington is it's going to be really cutting it close to training camp, and there's going to be literally no other team that's better than the Commanders offering him a shot to compete for the starting left tackle spot. That is the only way I see Bakhtiari signing here. And at the end of the day, I think he does go elsewhere. I think that the more likely scenario for the Washington Commanders at offensive tackle is Donovan Smith, last year's starting left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. He has, a little bit of chemistry with Nick Allegretti. If you're really going to go with Nick Allegretti as your starting left guard, get the guy that was his left tackle there in Kansas City last year. He was also the starting left tackle for the Chiefs when they won the Super Bowl last year, and he was the starting left tackle for the Super Bowl winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers team back during the COVID season as well. So this is somebody over the last 4 years has been on 2 Super Bowl winning championship teams there. So he's somebody with a championship pedigree. In terms of his production, he hasn't been all that fantastic over the last 2 seasons. There's a reason why the Bucs and Chiefs both let him walk, but I think he's way better than anything that the Commanders have at left tackle right now in Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman. Now, coming up here on the show, ESPN says extend this Commanders player before the start of the season. I'm going to let you know who they say the Commanders should extend here in just a second. But first, somebody that's not up for extension is rookie quarterback Jayden Daniels. And if you want a brand new Jayden Daniels Commanders jersey and you want to help out the channel, this is your opportunity to do so right now, because when you use our link, chatsports.com/Daniels, I'll put that in the comments and description of today's show, and then you make a purchase, Fanatics is going to send us part of the proceeds to help us make more Commanders content for you guys for free here on the channel. So if you're planning on getting a Jayden Daniels jersey regardless, you can get one right now while helping out our channel here by going to chatsports.com/Daniels today. And the player that ESPN says the Commanders should extend this offseason is offensive guard Sam Cosmi. Now, you guys know if you've watched the show that I'm a big fan of Sam Cosmi. He's the only guy on this offensive line right now that I fully trust. I trust Biadasz a little bit too, but Cosmi's really the rock in this offensive line unit, and this is what Aaron Schatz from ESPN had to say about extending him. Cosmi was 14th in pass block win rate among guards last season and also above average in run block win rate. He's the best player on the Commanders' offensive line, and his contract is up after this year. And you guys know, man, I had him on my extension candidates video that we put up on the channel a couple weeks ago. Couldn't agree more with this, man. Go ahead and extend Sam Cosmi. I think he's absolutely worth the money that you would have to give up to get him. He's one of the best guards in football, one of the highest grading guards in football. And listen, you're going to have to pay a little bit to keep him in town. I mean, the guard market definitely exploded this year with guys like Robert Hunt and, Chris Lindstrom and Landon Dickinson. All these guys getting big-time money at the interior offensive line position here. So expect it to get above or at $20 million per season for Sam Cosmi. But that is something that I'm absolutely willing to pay for this guy because he's literally the only 100% solid, rock-solid type of offensive lineman on your team right now. Biadasz is fine. He's about middle of the pack in terms of grading centers. But then everybody else, both tackle spots, big question marks. And then left guard, I would contend, is also a question mark. So you got to solidify the stuff that is good about this offensive line. And Cosmi is absolutely worth $20 million per year, in my opinion. But what do you guys think? Let me know down there in the comments section. Is Sam Cosmi worth a contract of $20 million per season or more? Give me a yes or no to let me know your thoughts on the Commanders' right guard. Now, some good news here on Quan Martin, second-year player out of Illinois, who was last year's second-round pick for the Commanders. They put him kind of at slot corner a lot, and he really struggled in that role when Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio put him in. But he's been showing out at Commanders OTAs this year. And this is what Sam Fortier from the Washington Post had to say on Quan Martin at OTAs. I think Quan is very clearly the leader in the clubhouse among the young safeties to have a significant role. I just think that he's going to be a guy that they move around, and I think he's going to cause some havoc. And when he talks about that role that is going to be apparently significant this year, I think he's going to be a rotational safety and chess piece. I think you're going to use him in a bunch of different disguised looks, all these different things that we know Dan Quinn and new defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. love to run in their defensive scheme. Now, for me personally, guys, I do think Derek Forrest and Jeremy Chin are going to be the two main guys, all right? But Jeremy Chin, and when they go to their three safety package, is going to be pretty much a hybrid linebacker, and that's when they're going to put Jartavius or Quan Martin here in at strong safety, along with Derek Forrest, who is also a big-time playmaker. So Martin is somebody that can also rotate down into the slot if they want to do some rotation stuff like that. I think he's going to be used as a defensive weapon, and I'm definitely looking out for him this year. I mean, I think that the safety room this year is super interesting. I love Derek Forrest as a player. Jeremy Chin chose Washington over other teams like the Pittsburgh Steelers, took less money to come here because of such a good scheme fit here with the Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. defense. And then when you put Quan Martin in there, who I think is a very intriguing player, there's a reason why this guy went in the second round as a safety, by the way, guys. This guy's got a lot of talent. I can't wait to see him play here in 2024. That'll be it for today's edition of Commanders News and Rumors. Make sure you click that subscribe button right now if you haven't already for extensive Commanders coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason. Okay, man, so we got the mailbag coming up here soon. Make sure you guys use hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get your question on today's Q&A. I've seen some people already get their questions down there. That's absolutely fantastic. We got about 76 people watching live right now. 2 likes away from 50. Let's get to 50. And I'm going to say this right now, guys, okay? That's not enough to get you to click that thumbs up icon. I will do a jumping jack for every single like that we get on the stream. Okay, so right now we just hit 50. So no matter what, I have to do 50 jumping jacks in a row to finish out today's show.
No way.
The higher it goes, the more jumping jacks I will do. Okay, so if you haven't clicked that thumbs up icon, you want to see me suffer, do your part right now and add a jumping jack to the total by clicking that thumbs up icon. Coming up here soon, we got my official 2024 Commanders roster projection. Now, if the Commanders continue to make moves and the roster looks different by the time training camp comes around, I might update this roster projection, Coop. But today, I feel pretty confident in my projection heading into training camp this year, and I think it's a pretty interesting segment
Yeah.
we're going to get into
I mean, things are obviously subject to change. We're still about a month away from training camp, so we don't know exactly what's going to go on there. But in the preseason, but it's a pretty good exercise to do, and I'm sure we'll do it again before final cut day.
Yeah, absolutely. So for the people that are just joining us, here's our donation menu today, either Super Chat or Venmo. If we can get to 5 different people to Super Chat or Venmo today, I am going to be slapping Coop in the face with a tortilla and punishing him for being a Cowboys fan on the Commanders Report. It's my favorite pastime, slapping Coop with tortillas. So help me out here.
It's almost a fetish.
It's borderline. I will admit that. I'm not going to go full bore here and say it is, but it's definitely definitely up there. I'm definitely close to the line. So any super chat, you're going to get a shout out. It guarantees your spot on the mailbag. $5, we'll do a Bean-Boozled jelly bean. $10, we'll do 2 beans at the same time. $20, you get your name on the F the Cowboys hat. By the way, Coop, and if somebody sends in a 50, I'll put Coop's name on here. I'll put Coop. Coop is a big Cowboys fan, and I'll put his name on this F the Cowboys hat if somebody sends in a 50. Okay, but 20, we'll put your name on. And without further ado here, man, let's get into this roster projection. I've been kind of working real hard on this all day today, ready to share it with you guys. It's going to be a good one. So I'm pretty pumped, man. So make sure you guys get those questions down there. Hashtag Commanders or Super Chat to get your question on the show. The mailbag will be coming after this segment. But without further ado, let's get into my roster projection for the 2024 Washington Commanders. Now that OTAs is officially over, and now we wait for the start of Commanders training camp today, I feel ready to give out my official projection for this 53-man roster for the first year of the Dan Quinn era. Before we get into today's coverage, make sure you guys comment, raise hail to get us started down there in the comments section. I'm gonna give a personal comment to everybody that puts raise hail down there in the comments to start today's show. Okay, let's get into my roster projection here. So the quarterbacks that I'm projecting make this team are Marcus Mariota and Jaden Daniels. I do believe Jaden Daniels will be QB1 for the start of the season, but I guess you never really know. Jaden was already taking a bunch of first-team reps instead of Marcus Mariota during mandatory minicamp, so it seems like Daniels is quickly assuming that top dog role in this room. We'll get to some practice squad options at quarterback later in today's show. Then we'll get to the running backs here. I think that they're only going to carry 3. And I think they're going to be Brian Robinson Jr., Austin Eckler, and Chris Rodriguez Jr. I do think Eckler starts the year as running back 2. Chris Rodriguez will start as running back 3. But watch out for Rodriguez in his second year to almost usurp Eckler, who is definitely on the decline of his career. Lost a little bit of a step last year. If Rodriguez takes a step up and Eckler takes another step down, watch out for Rodriguez to be the second running back in this rotation by season's end. Then we get to the starting wide receivers. I have them carrying 7 receivers this year because we know that Cliff Kingsbury loves to put a lot of receivers on the field. And, he's using some of these guys in special teams as well. So the starting guys, I think that, you're going to see a lot of 4 receiver formations with Cliff Kingsbury. And I think the guys that you're going to see on the field the most often are Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, De'Ami Brown, and Olamide Zaccheaus. Okay, I think that they brought in Zaccheaus for a reason. I think he's kind of being slept on a little bit right now in terms of how much of a role he's going to play in this offense. But I think, as that 4th wide receiver, he's going to have a pretty significant role here. Then the backup wide receivers, Luke McCaffrey, who they took in the 3rd round this year with pick number 100. They're hoping that he's going to be somebody that can develop into a nice, threesome of receivers here between McLaurin and Dotson, and then McCaffrey, who's a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. Jamison Crowder is going to be kind of like their kick return, punt return specialist guy that can also play a little bit in the slot in case there's an injury. And then Dax Milne will be almost like Jamison Crowder's backup as like that kick return specialist, punt return specialist, who also has lots of experience as a backup wide receiver in this league. Then with tight ends, I think they carry 4. Zach Ertz, Ben Sinnott, John Bates, and Cole Turner. We'll get to Armani Rogers and why I don't project him to make the roster right now, but watch out for Armani Rogers instead of Cole Turner to potentially make this roster. I do think John Bates' spot on this roster is relatively safe because of the value he brings as a blocker. Then we get to the offensive tackles. I think they carry 4. Andrew Wiley will be the starting right tackle. I do believe Cornelius Lucas, if nothing else happens here, will win the starting left tackle job. Brandon Coleman who they hope can develop into their future left tackle, will also make the team. And I do think Trent Scott, who's been a pretty decent backup tackle in this league, will also make the team. Let me get to the interior O-lineman. Sam Cosmi will be the starting right guard. Biotish will be, or Badass, whatever one you prefer there. Biotish is going to be the starting center. Nick Allegretti is slated to be the starting left guard. Michael Dieter was brought in to be a nice backup that can play either guard or center. And then Ricky Stromberg, I think that this team, he might be more of a bubble player, but I think Stromberg makes it over Chris Paul. I just think that the youth factor there is going to play a little bit of a role. All right, guys, coming up here, we're going to be going over the defense for my roster projection here for the Washington Commanders. But before we get into that, make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I really do appreciate everybody that clicks that subscribe button. We're a really fast-growing channel here at Chat Sports. We were one of the top 10 fastest-growing channels here at Chat Sports last month. Thank you guys so much for all the support that you've given. And the reason why that is, guys, is because we're putting out great content every day. We got daily Commanders videos for you guys to enjoy, breaking news coverage every time they make a move. If they make a trade or assign somebody before the start of training camp, we're going to be covering it right here on the show. We got a weekly live show on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's all 100% free, okay? So join the over 15,000 Commanders fans that have already clicked that subscribe button by joining our family today. Then we get to the defense here, and I have them carrying quite a few interior defensive linemen here. Jonathan Allen will be the starting 3 technique. Deron Payne will be the starting nose. Johnny Newton, I think that they're getting him to be more of like a 3-4 defensive end type, but that's still technically an interior player. So I have Johnny Newton in there. Those will be kind of the people you see most often. Then Fedarian Mathis and John Ridgway are both guys that are a bit bigger, and I think they're going to help on special teams. Plus, they'll be backup nose tackles in case Deron Payne goes down. Then we'll go to the edge rushers / defensive ends, and I also have them carrying 6 of these guys. Jamin Davis is going to provide a little bit of a hybrid role on this defense this year as a pass rusher / outside linebacker type. Dorrance Armstrong is going to be more of the traditional edge defensive end type. Dante Fowler Jr. is going to be coming in during the NASCAR package when this team gets really small and attacks the opposing quarterback on third downs. Cleveland Ferrell will be a run stuffer. On early downs, probably more of a backup. Anthony Pittman will play more of like the backup role to Jamin Davis, is kind of like that hybrid outside linebacker type role. And then F.A. Obata will also be depth at this position as well. Then we get to the inside linebackers. I have them carrying only 3, but that's because one of the safeties we have is also going to be playing hybrid linebacker, plus Jamin Davis can also come into this role if needed. So Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu, and then the draft pick this year, Jordan McGee, I think are the 3 true inside linebackers that end up making this roster. Now, before we finish out the rest of this Commanders roster here for 2024, make sure you click that thumbs up icon if you are a real one. The real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon and liking today's video is the best way to help our channel grow. So thank you guys so much for all of your support. Then we get to the cornerbacks here. I have them carrying 5. Emmanuel Forbes, Michael Davis, Mike Sainristroll will probably be like the first rotation that we see. Benjamin St. Juste will also get in there and have his shot to prove himself. And then Christian Holmes, I think, will be their true backup option at the cornerback position. Then we get to the safeties, and there's a lot of different versatile pieces in the safety room this year. Derek Forrest will be most likely the starting free safety. Jeremy Chin will be the starting strong safety. But here's the thing with Chin. He's going to be moving to a hybrid linebacker role when this team goes to its 3 safety package, in which Quan Martin will take that strong safety role where Derek Forrest and Quan will be able to do a bunch of fun stuff there in the secondary, where Chin essentially becomes a coverage linebacker. Percy Butler is one of the better backup safeties in the league, in my opinion. He's a very trustworthy player. And then Jeremy Reeves is a really good special teamer. He's going to really help out on kickoff coverage this year for the Commanders. And then we got Dominique Hampton, a very physically talented player this team drafted on day 3 this year. I think he also makes the roster. Then we get to the special teams unit here. The kicker, right now I don't know who else they're going to bring in. They got Ramiz Ahmed, all right? So that's my projection right now. The punter is going to be Tress Way, and then the long snapper is going to be Tyler Ott, who's one of the best in football. From what I heard, I don't watch long snapper film, guys. Sue me. Okay, and then we get to the pre-squad priorities here for the practice squad guys that I would still like to see in the building. Jeff Driscoll can be like that emergency quarterback that the NFL allows these teams to have here on the sideline. That's not technically a part of the 53. Then we get Mitchell Tinsley. By the way, For those of you saying, where's Sam Hartman? He stinks. He's going to get cut. I don't think he's going to have a good camp. I don't think he's going to have a good preseason. I think Driscoll wins that QB3 job. Mitchell Tinsley is somebody I really like. I think that this team is going to like him enough to keep him on the practice squad. Marcus Rosemy-Jack saying not quite enough room for him on the roster here in my projection, but I think that he's a really intriguing player that I'd like to keep around. Armani Rogers, another talented player, but we just don't know exactly how ready he is to play NFL football again after multiple seasons with injuries at this point. Braden Daniels is coming off a big injury last year, missing his entire rookie season. Chris Paul is somebody that maybe they keep around, maybe they don't. Same thing with KJ Henry, who didn't have a great first season in the league. Javonte Jean-Baptiste, I think, is definitely somebody they're going to want to keep around as a project. Michael Walker, as I almost put him on in the final 53 as like a special teams helper / linebacker depth. But I think he'll probably be more of a Peace Squad guy. Noah Igbenogany is somebody that's a Dan Quinn guy, and maybe he makes the roster over Christian Holmes or somebody like that. I guess we'll have to see what kind of camp he has. James Pierre is somebody that's played in the league for quite a bit. Veteran experience. Could see him on practice squad in case there's injuries. Tariq Castro-Fields played pretty darn well during OTAs. Nick Whiteside, somebody that played a little bit last year but was really bad. And then Tyler Owens, who's a very intriguing physical prospect that needs some development at the safety position. Those are my Peace Squad priorities. But now let me know down there in the comments section. Do you disagree with my roster projection? Is there anything that you think was just egregious, or if you think, maybe, you wanted Michael Walker in there, or if you think Jeff Driscoll makes the final 53 or something, or Sam Hartman, let me know. If you have a disagreement with me, let me know down there in the comments section. I want to hear your thoughts on my roster projection here. Make sure you guys type real one down there in the comments section if you made it to the end of today's show, because I really do appreciate all the real ones that make it to the end. A lot of people click away, but it really is the real ones that watch to the very end. Really do appreciate your guys' support. It helps out the YouTube algorithm. So make sure you click that subscribe button right now. Type real one down there in the comments section if you made it to the end. My name is Jack Sperry. I'm the host of the Commanders Report. And until next time, hail to the Commanders. All right, man, so we got the Commanders coming up here soon, or we got the Commanders mailbag coming up here soon. I don't study long snapper film. Sue me, man. I got too much time. I mean, I don't have enough time in the day to go over long snapper film. That's fine. Go ahead. You'll lose. Oh, man. Make sure you get your questions in. We're going to be getting into the mailbag here momentarily. How many? I've seen questions kind of, come in. I see Jasmine got a question in there. Comfy got a question. Jonathan Taylor has put in multiple questions. We got Jake's. I don't know if it's Jack's or Jake's put in a question as well. I think we got enough questions.
Oh, I think so too. Let me just double check.
So again, guys, we are doing this promotion today where if we can get 5 different people to Super Chat or Venmo today,
yes,
I'm going to slap Coop in the face with a tortilla. To this point, still no Super Chats or Venmos. So, I mean, we got to get this going here. We need 5 people to make it happen here. That's my goal for the end of today's show. Let's make it happen. Also, every like that we get is 1 jumping jack for me at the end of the show. So right now we're at 63. So that's 63 jumping jacks in a row to finish today's show.
Jack walked in the office today and was like, "I'm going to slap you." And I was like, "What?" And then he was like,
just felt like one of those days.
"I'm going to slap you on live on the Commanders Report today." And I said, "Bet. We'll see if the Commanders Report shows up."
And to this point, we haven't, man. It's literally 0 Super Chats or Venmos.
I'm challenging you. So
Coop's challenging you guys. I want to slap him. Let's make this happen. By the way, if you just send a $1 Venmo to me at Jack-Sperry, if we can show my Venmo real quick, Coop. If you just send me a $1 Venmo, that's it. If we get 5 people to do that, it's a $5 tortilla slap.
True.
So let's make it happen. I want to slap this guy. I said it this morning. I'll say it now. I want to slap a Cowboys fan on the show. It's one of those days. It's one of those Thursdays. We need 5 different people to get it done for us right now. You can send it in via Super Chat. You can send it in via Venmo. Doesn't matter what the amount is. 5 different people send in a donation, and we'll slap Coop.
You just woke up this morning, and you were like, "I really want to slap somebody."
Yeah, I woke up. And
Fortunately, it wasn't
violence
Cassie.
on my mind. No, it'll never be against Cassie.
She was nervous.
No, she wasn't. It will never be against
kidding.
Cassie. Never
Cassie,
against
he would
Cassie.
never.
All right, man. Let's get into it. Let's get into this mailbag. We got enough questions. If you guys want to see me slap Coop, get those Venmos and those super chats in. But until then, let's get into this mailbag here with your questions on the Washington Commanders. Welcome into the Commanders Report mailbag segment. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today it's one of my favorite segments of the week because I get to talk Commanders football with you guys and the topics that you want to discuss. So if you want to get a question on a future edition of the Commanders Report mailbag, all you got to do is click that subscribe button and join us for our live shows every single Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time when we film these things, and you guys can get your questions in for free and get your questions on the show and give yourself a voice on one of the largest Commanders talk shows here on YouTube. Okay, now I'll pause and open it up for questions, starting with my man Eugene, who's always getting questions in on these mailbags, saying, David Bakhtiari wants to play Washington. Do you sign him? If I am the Commanders, I would want to sign him. Now, he also said in his interview with Adam Schefter that he wants to play for a contender. And the Commanders have pretty much a 0% chance to win the Super Bowl this year because they have a rookie quarterback. No rookie has ever won a Super Bowl in NFL history. And they've got a first-year head coach. And first-year head coaches usually don't do well, in the playoffs either. So I think Bakhtiari probably wants to go to a team like the Chiefs, who could still use a left tackle. He'd like to win a ring before he officially hangs them up. I think if Washington is the only team willing to give him a contract by the time training camp comes around, yeah, maybe he'll sign with Washington. But I think that's really the only way he'll end up being a Commander this year. Then we got one from Jasmine Gray here. It says, Jack, I have a question for you. Is the Washington Commanders will sweep or split the Cowboys this year?
Neither.
Coop says neither. He thinks the Cowboys are going to sweep
the Cowboys will split.
I'm going to say the Commanders sweep the Cowgirls this year. How about that? Like the video if you hate the freaking Dallas Cowboys, man. Jaden Daniels is going to be their worst nightmare for the next decade plus, Jasmine. I can't wait to see him cut up that Cowboys defense now that Dan Quinn is no longer there. Then we got one from Roy Jenkins. He says, how much better do you think Stephon Gilmore would make the Commanders secondary this year? A lot better. And I've said it a lot on the show. I think not only would he be your number one corner right away, and he'd be a good one. Like, he was a legit number one corner on a really good playoff team last year in the Dallas Cowboys. All right, that team was legit, okay? And he was their number one guy for the entire season in this same defensive scheme headed by this team's head coach, and, the defensive coordinator now was his secondaries coach. So he's got great connections with everybody in the building. But then also, he would be kind of like the Bobby Wagner to this secondary here, where he'd be that mentor for guys like Emmanuel Forbes and Benjamin St-Juste and Quan Martin, all these younger players that are here that are still learning the ropes of the National Football League game. And I just don't see any reason why Stephon Gilmore wouldn't be a benefit to the Washington Commanders. If he has any, interest in joining this football team, if I'm Adam Peters, I'm getting him on the phone right now. Now, with Stephon Gilmore, the Commanders would have a top blank defense in the NFL. Answer this question for me down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. And when that happens, take advantage of that time by letting me know how good you think the Commanders' defense can be with Stephon Gilmore. Then we got one from Jonathan Taylor, my man. Says Marcus Rosemy Jack Saint has a better chance of making the team than Dax Milne, or deserves it more, in my opinion. He's the new guy on the block here, Coop. He's the exciting undrafted free agent that made an awesome catch in rookie minicamp. And I get why fans certainly think Rosemy Jack Saint would be more valuable. I just think that with Milne's experience with special teams, and as well, he's been on a 53-man roster before. I mean, I feel like it's going to be close. Don't get me wrong. There's a good little group here between like Dax Milne, Mitchell Tinsley, Rosemy Jack Saint. There's a little group of receivers there that are going to be fighting for that last wide receiver spot on this roster. But just right now, I think Dax Milne, somebody with more experience, somebody with special teams value here, is more likely to get the job. Then we got one from Jax or Jakes. I hope I'm saying whichever one there. Says, who's the one team that you will think we have to beat out to make the playoffs? So it's going to be a lot of teams, man. There's going to be, if the Commanders, if you guys watch my Commanders record prediction video, I'll probably put this in the comments and description today, so you guys can check that out after you watch today's video. I have them going 7-7 to start the season. That puts you firmly in the playoff race for the final 3 weeks of the year. Have them losing the final 3 games of the year, finishing 7-10. But, there's going to be a lot of teams vying for those final couple spots in the wild card there in the NFC this year. So it's a whole hodgepodge of teams that are probably going to be fighting for that spot. All right, before we get into the rest of your questions this week, if you want a brand new Jaden Daniels Commanders jersey and you want to help out the channel, this is your chance to do so by going to chatsports.com/Daniels. If you use that link, I'll put it in the comments and description of today's show. You click that link, then you make a purchase. Our friends at Fanatics are going to send us part of the proceeds from your purchase to help us make more Commanders content for free for you guys right here on the channel. So if you're planning on getting a Jaden Daniels jersey regardless, and you want to help out the channel as well, this is your opportunity to do so. Go to chatsports.com/Daniels to get your Jaden Daniels jersey in your closet today. Got one from Jet Miller, says, which Commanders O-lineman do we need to have a breakout season this year? There's multiple guys, if I'm being honest with you, Jet. You need, Andrew Wiley to have a bounce-back season. You need Nick Allegretti to really prove that he's worth being an everyday starter, an every week starter in the league. And Coop saying Stromberg. Stromberg would be nice. He'd have to play guard because Biotish is going to be the starting center. Also, Brandon Coleman. That's probably going to be my final answer here. If Brandon Coleman, in his rookie season, can be a legit NFL left tackle, that's going to fix a lot of the problems on the Commanders' O-line because you got your most important position locked up, okay? But the thing is, Coleman did not have a good season last year with TCU. He had like a below 55 PFF grade last year. The Senior Bowl was really rough. He was one of, if not the worst offensive tackle at the Senior Bowl this year. Foot speed's not great. Tested great, and that's why he got drafted in the 3rd round, and he's big, and he's got long arms, and, he's got the physical skill set to do it. But I think he's going to need at least a year before he develops. Now, you tell me. Let me know down there in the comments section which Commanders offensive lineman must perform well this year in order to protect Jaden Daniels this season and have success offensively. Let me know down there in the comments section which offensive lineman needs to perform. Then we go on from my man Comfy, says, out of the 2 vet signings, who will get more touchdowns this season, Eckler or Ertz? I would have to say Ertz. Ertz is going to be more of a red zone threat as a tight end, as a bigger body, as a contested catch threat in the red zone. Eckler is going to be more of like that scat back, 3rd downs. Brian Robinson Jr. is really going to dominate the snaps this year, in my opinion, just because Eckler is, he's getting up there in age, man. He doesn't have much juice left in the tank. And you're trying to get the most out of Eckler, trying to keep him fresh for those 3rd down situations. But I don't think Eckler is going to get much goal line work this year. It's going to go pretty much all to Brian Robinson, who's the bigger back, obviously. So I think Ertz will have more touchdowns this year. Make sure you guys click that thumbs up icon if you haven't already. If you are a Commanders Report real one, the real ones know that clicking that thumbs up icon tells the YouTube algorithm that you're enjoying our content and that they should recommend it to other Commanders fans like yourself. So make sure you click that thumbs up icon right now to help out our channel today. Then we got one from Eugene again, says, Coop, I have a different question. What are the last 3 areas of concern for the team? Offensive line, edge, cornerback. I mean, that feels good, but I think that they feel good about where they are with edge rusher because people don't see Jamin Davis as an edge rusher, but that's how they're going to use him this year. They're going to use him as, kind of a hybrid linebacker defensive end type player like they used Micah Parsons, for example. Remember, Micah was an inside linebacker coming into the league, and then they converted him to an edge rusher over his time there with the Cowboys. That's what they're trying to do with Jamin Davis. And then you have Dorrance Armstrong on the other side, and I think that's perfectly fine. So I think that the Commanders feel like they're good at edge rusher because behind them, right, you've got Anthony Pittman, who can play that hybrid role. You've got Dante Fowler Jr., who can play that Dorrance Armstrong role in a pinch, right? So I think that they feel pretty good about edge. Offensive line for sure, cornerback for sure, and then receiver. Why not? Throw receiver in there. If you want to go and get a Michael Thomas to make this room better, if you want to go out and get, splurge on a Brandon Ayuk, as long as you don't overpay for him, I'd be fine with that as well, especially because of his connection with Jaden Daniels. Good question here, Eugene, but if I have to pick 3, I'd probably pick offensive line, corner, and then receiver. Then we got one from Patrick Mandan. It says, how much of a role do you think Luke McCaffrey will play in year one? Didn't you say you didn't like his college film? Wasn't a huge fan of his college film. On my draft notes, I said if this guy's name was Luke Johnson, he'd be a 6th or 7th round pick. He didn't play. He tested very well. For his size, I think he ran in the 4.4s, and that's a really good time. But he played slow on his Rice film. He was not fast out of his breaks. You know, he could get jammed at the line of scrimmage because he wasn't quick enough. He didn't run the cleanest, crispest routes as other guys in this class. He's somebody that still needs to develop quite a bit. And to his credit, he's still new to the position. So maybe he's made massive steps during the draft process. Just on his film, it was so underwhelming. And I just feel like his draft stock might have been elevated because of his last name and the pedigree he comes from. Sounds like a great kid. Definitely works hard. He shows up with Jaden Daniels at 5:45 in the morning every day to work. So I hope that with that awesome physical skill set, that pedigree, he ends up working out. But let me know down there in the comment section, will Luke McCaffrey be a wide receiver 3 by the end of the year? I think we all assume that Terry McLaurin and John Dotson will be the number 1 and number 2 options here. But let me know, will McCaffrey rise up the ranks here in year 1? Will give me a yes or no. We got one more question here from Jeet. Jeet, I like the profile picture, by the way, too. It says, what is the one player that you think has the best chance of breaking out? The best chance. And, you know, I'm going to exclude rookies. I would say Jaden Daniels, but to have a breakout season, you have to already be in the league, in my opinion. No, I'm going to go with Jahan Dotson. I'm going to go with Jahan. He's a former first-round pick. Had a down year last year. Lots of people are doubting him, but I still think he's massively talented. I think with a better quarterback in place this year, things are going to go a lot better for Jahan Dotson. And I think he's going to have one hell of a year. Also, Quan Martin, keep your eye on him. Also, keep your eye on Emmanuel Forbes. If he can develop and he fits in well with this awesome, aggressive style of defense, Emmanuel Forbes could get lots of interceptions. Now, that'll be it for this week's Mailbag, man. Make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Again, next Thursday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Make sure you click that subscribe button and join us then if you want to get a question on next week's Commanders Report Mailbag. All right, man, that is our third segment of the day.
Indeed.
James Jones says, hey, we got cap space to do whatever. We do.
Got a lot of cap.
Got a lot of cap.
Not a whole lot of people to use it on.
Yeah, at this point, there's very few people to bring in.
You theoretically, if you wanted to, could overpay for a Bakhtiari or a Gilmore, I guess, if it was a one-year deal. But
I don't love that idea.
I don't either. That's what I'm saying.
And the thing that worries me about the Gilmore thing is that it makes so much sense that I feel like the Commanders already made him an offer and he said no. Because like Bakhtiari, he's in the later stage of his career and he wants to win.
Yep.
It was one of the reasons why I was a little bit surprised that Bobby Wagner decided to come here, because he's right at the end of his career.
I think Bobby Wagner and Dan Quinn had such a good relationship from their time in Seattle that Wagner just decided, hey, I'm going to go play for you, man.
Yeah, and I would hope that Stephon Gilmore feels the same way.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, Gilmore didn't sign with the Cowboys till very late in the offseason last year.
Well, they traded for him.
Yeah, exactly. They traded for him. And he came in that scheme, which we're going to be running here in Washington, and he was phenomenal.
He was great.
He shut down A.J. Brown twice.
And he was basically the CB1 for the majority of the year because Diggs tore his ACL.
Exactly. So I love Stephon Gilmore's game. He was great last year in this defense. I don't see any reason why Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. weren't like, hey, Adam Peters, go give this guy an offer. So I have to assume that they have approached him and that he has said no.
Yeah.
And that sucks because he would make this defense just that much better.
We don't know that for sure.
I think this defense would probably go from maybe top 15 to bona fide. I think they could reach top 10.
You think they're top 15 defense already?
The outside cornerback spot's going to be rough. But I love the scheme that they run.
Yeah.
I love the multiple fronts. I love that they get, that NASCAR package out there on 3rd and long situations. I love Jamin Davis, to move him to edge rusher. I love the inside linebacker room. Frankie Louvu is awesome. I love Frankie Louvu. I love Jeremy Chinn's fit in this defense. I think Quan Martin's going to have a good year. I love Derek Forrest now that he's back healthy. But the outside cornerback position stinks.
Yeah. Emmanuel
Forbes is still 170 pounds. You can't tell me otherwise. The pictures speak for themselves. Benjamin St. Juste runs like a 4.6. That's an exaggeration, but he's slow. And then Michael Davis didn't have a good year last year in L.A. Those are your 3 top outside corners. But if you get Stephon Gilmore, Coop, then you have a legit number 1.
Yep.
Then you have a really up-and-coming, nice number 2 in Emmanuel Forbes. So I think you could get a lot of interceptions as a number 2 guy. You could put Stephon Gilmore on the bigger receivers that Forbes has issues with. Then you have Mike Sainristil at the slot, who I think is going to be one of the best slot defenders in the game right away. I think that this team could go from like borderline top 20 to borderline top 10 just by adding 1 player. And that's crazy to say.
That is wild.
But I think that this defense and this secondary and this cornerback room gets so much better if you get Stephon Gilmore.
Agreed.
And if they are simply just ignoring that and Adam Peters has his head up his ass and he's not giving Stephon a call, all I'm saying is, what the hell are you doing, Adam? I mean, this would be the biggest mistake of the offseason, in my opinion. Having a guy in Stephon Gilmore just waiting there, wanting to play for you, and you say, no thanks? We're going to go with Emmanuel Forbes as our number 1 corner this year when he was burnt toast last year? I mean, come on now. I mean, I think we can do a little bit better than that. I like Adam Peters. I think he was the right hire. I haven't agreed with every decision he's made this offseason, but I don't know, man. I just feel like Stephon Gilmore would be such a help.
Yeah, no, I think he would too. Like I said, the longer he goes unsigned, the better I feel about the Commanders' chances. So we'll see.
All right, man, that's going to be it for today's show. I appreciate everybody that stopped by this week.
Later, homies.
We'll see you guys next week with the next edition of the Commanders.